like Gaga and Madonna, think about those big anthem, what we call anthem songs, right? Giving you my best. That is such that big anthem song, that big pop song. It really stirs you. Think about, I'm thinking about, I Kissed a Girl and I Liked It. I can't think of an artist that
Katy Perry.
Katy Perry, thank you. Think about Katy Perry and Roar, right? And Firework. Those were really all the blueprint following Tina Turner. And so that is how she really has changed and gave the blueprint and changed the way that a woman could be an artist and how it could soar and it could break the boundaries of genre. She was genre busting when it came to music.
Okay, we can keep going. Janet Jackson, Alanis Morissette, Alicia Keys, Adele. Okay, I mean, really. And at some point in time, almost all of those women have made a shout out to her or somehow lifted her up and how she influenced them and their music and the way they perform and the just how they are as entertainers. You know, yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
I'm thinking about the moment where Tina Turner would talk about, after her concerts, she would have to get into a ice bath at the end of each concert because that's how much she gave to her audience. I had the pleasure of taking my mom recently to see Tina on Broadway for Mother's Day when it was still up on the boards, and I kept thinking to myself, although this isn't Tina, my God, what was it like for her to do this day in and day out? And the crowd was on their feet with roars and applause and cheers just for the Broadway show because that's what the music did. And also, too, Kara, we talked about how she was genre busting, but she was intergenerational. There's so many people of all ages who love Tina, right? And there's something about when Tina's music play, I'm hearing it right now in my ear, it just makes you just want to rock, right? Like, she was so dramatic with even her music phrasing and how she did it, right? Like, she just knew how to make you move. She appealed to the human condition, and I think that is what's so powerful. To be so powerful, but to be so loving, that's a difficult balance to be able to draw.
Yeah, she busted open. She busted through that all-male rock royalty scene, right? When we're thinking of, I don't know, Rolling Stones and Aerosmith. And, I mean, all those guys respected and loved her. And she rolled with them. And was the first woman to do that.
She did, and like Kara, she's one of those people where you even look and look, there is this gendering, right, when it comes to queen or king of pop, queen of pop, right? But with Tina, yes, she was a queen of rock and roll, but everyone you mentioned, Tina could go toe-to-toe with the fellas, right? She was just one of the best in rock and roll to do it, and that's because, Kara, she belonged to the world, right? Like, she lived outside of the U.S., and so you had all this multiple ways of who she saw herself as. And when you have that type of freedom, even in terms of like your citizenship, that comes out in your music. And that's the reason why we gravitate towards her. You gravitate towards artists who you can connect with, who you feel is authentic. And she showed up and showed out every single day.
And, we mentioned, a sharecropper's daughter to global superstar. But let's not forget what she went through with Ike Turner. That the abuse, the mental abuse, the physical abuse. She even had survived a suicide attempt. I mean, this road to global stardom did not come easy from the day she was born. But let's talk about, Ike Turner and what she did go through with him definitely molded and created this strong, amazing woman that carried on for decades after finally leaving that monstrous husband.
I think about the phoenix, right? Like rising from the ashes. Like that's what comes to mind when I think about Tina Turner. Someone who's coming to mind right now to me is Angela Bassett. Like I wonder what is Angela Bassett thinking right now, because Angela Bassett was able to portray Tina so well that Angela Bassett for me got lost in that role and Tina Turner was able to come through. And so we were able to see through that masterful performance exactly how Tina was able to navigate that difficult space, navigate domestic abuse, years, navigating, not even thinking that, you could make it. That I'm thinking about that line in the movie where they're in the court and they're about to get, the divorce is about to be final. And she says to the judge, I can have it all. She said, I just want my name. Right? She just want what was hers. Like, she made that name, Tina Turner. That was her brand. It's about, I want to leave, Kira, now we have words for it, and we say agency. That was her way of saying, I want to leave with my agency, my brand of Tina Turner. And how powerful that for women to reclaim their agency in spaces and places where women's voices are not often heard. And so I think that is why Tina Turner resonates so much, is because she was so open with the story. We saw how she owned her agency, and I think that is why a lot of people can relate. Women and also men can relate too, about really taking back what's yours, taking back your agency, take back your IP, your intellectual property, and make a mark for yourself that will be left.
Open with her story. What a perfect segue to former editor for People magazine, Larry Hackett, who's going to join our conversation now. Mike, Larry, and to think of all those stories People magazine had the chance to tell about Tina Turner.
Well, it's just an incredible story. I mean, she goes from basically being a performer on the Chitlin circuit with Ike and, just being an amazing performer, moves through into a crossover act. She famously appeared in the movie Gimme Shelter. She was on the 1969 Rolling Stones tour of the United States, which is highly unusual. Her performance in that movie is absolutely incredible. We've all seen performances of Proud Mary and things like that, and that's the earlier part. Then, of course, what comes to light is her absolutely hideous treatment at the hands of Ike and leaving Ike and living with nothing but her name, as your previous guest said. And then her rebirth in the 1980s as this unbelievable star whose personal life story was integral to the music she performed. You do not listen to Tina Turner without thinking or knowing what she went through in her personal life. That's highly unusual for performers, right? You can think of people like maybe Frank Sinatra or Edith Piaf, who their personal life and travails you can hear in every single syllable that they sing. Most performers keep their personal life at a distance to some degree. Maybe Taylor Swift, we know who her boyfriend is now, but that's nothing like what we know about Tina Turner and what she went through and the depths from which she had to crawl out of to regain stardom. It's in every single syllable and every single note she sings.
She laid it all out there. And then, I mean, Larry, let's just talk about all the health scares that she had throughout her life, too. If I remember correctly, she talked about never smoking, never doing drugs. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that she did say that she really saw her body as a temple. But even the way she lived her life and worked out and was so healthy and unbelievable on the stage. I mean, she still dealt with the stroke. She still dealt with cancer. She still dealt with issues with her kidney. She was such a fighter. I mean, just kind of remind us of everything she went through. Physically, we have talked about the abusive relationship, of course, with Ike Turner, but,
sure.
She still really fought through a lot of other physical challenges throughout the decades.
Well, later in life, she definitely had her challenges. That's absolutely right. But let's also remember, if we can, kind of conversely, when she returned to stardom in the mid-'80s, right, she was somebody in her 40s. You didn't have many pop stars in their 40s achieving the stardom that she did, right? I mean, it's kind of commonplace now. But in the 1980s, the pop charts were dominated, as they've always been dominated, by people in their 20s or their teens, right? So she was a quote-unquote mature act who looked nothing mature about her, that is to say, with her vigor and her strength when she came to the charts. In fact, let me rephrase that. It was, in fact, her maturity and her wisdom and her sagacity that I think gave her songs that much power, right? When she sang those words, and this is true throughout her career, whether it was singing Proud Mary or whether it was singing What's Love Got to Do with It, you believed every word this woman sang. So yes, later on she had her health travails, but you could say that in her 40s, in an era when most pop stars were not that age, she was the picture of health and the picture of someone, as one of your earlier guests said, like a phoenix rising back up. I mean, these videos that you're seeing now, that's not a middle-aged woman, is it?
No, it's not. Let me tell you, she's an inspiration to all of us. And Mike Muses is our other guest, Larry, that's joining the conversation here. He's the one you were listening to until we were able to connect with you. Please listen to his show on Sirius XM. Mike, in 2013, and Larry, you can correct me if I'm wrong too, I think it was back then that she relinquished her U.S. citizenship. She became a Swiss citizen. And Mike, she married, I must say, a much younger and very handsome record executive, Erwin Bach, and they stayed together for more than 2 decades, and finally getting married and having a big fairy tale chateau wedding. What can you tell us just about their love affair and their relationship? Well, she had such a horrendous one with Ike Turner. It does seem like she did finally find a love that respected and treated her right.
I'm just thinking, as I'm smiling and just thinking about what's love got to do with it, right? When you were mentioning that she found someone, I even think, Kira, it's so interesting in terms of how she it even became a Swiss citizen. When you think about Switzerland, you think about neutrality, right? And I think that's even poignant and almost Shakespearean as we talk about Tina Turner, as she was a citizen of the world. And what better place to be a citizen than this country that is known for being neutral when it comes to that. It just shows that you can find love again. And I think that so many people who go through difficult relationships of domestic abuse, or maybe have been divorced or have like such heartache when it comes to love, sometimes they never feel like they can find love again. And I think that Tina was emblematic of that, is that no matter how hard you go through, even publicly, that you too can find love again. And that sometimes romance and love isn't always about this fairy tale. But I think that's what makes Tina so interesting. I was mentioning and referencing Angela Bassett when it comes to the movies and how we were able to see her in that role. But I'm also too thinking about Tina Turner playing Mad Max. You know, when you think about that movie, you think about this gladiator, you think about her being this ruler of like this evil, crazy town in Mad Max that was so futuristic, but very gladiator too as well. You saw like the strength of a woman. As I'm thinking about the strength of a woman, I can't help but think about feminism, right? Like she really redefined like feminism to play a role back in that time period, where to see a woman be a ruler of a town, a mayor of sorts, and then to be so muscular, but yet so feminine, right? And really taking back your power. She is the essence of feminism. Feminism looks so different in so many ways, and people and styles and background. That is who Tina Turner was and what she brought, and that was part of the gift that she brought to the world. So I think it's so fitting that she's a citizen of Switzerland, because at the end, Tina doesn't belong to really any country. She was really that transformative.
Larry, please weigh in. We're sort of going through Twitter and seeing all the folks that are remembering her and sharing love. And as we're sort of rolling through those and bringing them up on the screen, I mean, Larry, please do add to what Mike said and just how the. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that, you know, when you look at her biography, and again, we're all going to be reading it and hearing about it over the next 24 hours or so, you know, it's really this incredible picture of, you know, of the 20th century music moving into the 21st century, right? I mean, you know, she's born, I think her name was Anna Mae Bullock. She's born in Tennessee, moves to St. Louis, becomes part of the soul circuit, right, in that era in the late 50s, early 60s, joins with Tina. They become this unbelievable live act, absolutely incendiary live act. And again, I urge anybody to go on to YouTube and see scenes from Gimme Shelter or any other scenes from the 60s. It was absolutely electric, highly provocative, highly sexualized. She was an incrediable performer. And then, of course, you learn the dark side of all that. And then she becomes emancipated finally from Ike and becomes, as your guest said, you know, a feminist icon. You can understand why she may have moved to Switzerland, in part because she was exhausted after all that she went through and what her career was like here in the United States. I mean, it was 3 careers or 4 careers compared to other pop stars. That constant reinvention. Again, it wasn't as if the prior iteration was repudiated, right? It was added upon and added upon and added upon. And what you ended up with was a performer who was all of those iterations, right? She was that young girl who changed her name. She was that an incendiary soul singer. She was the woman who had to fight for her name, which of course was the name which she, you know, ironically or perhaps paradoxically, kept the name of the man who had been so mistreating her. Yet she also knew, deep inside of her that was the only passport that she had to continued fame. So you see all those iterations which build upon one another, which what makes a great pop life. Pop stardom, I said earlier on that it's basically the kind of realm of the young, which is true. It's also very, very brief. I mean, NFL running backs have longer careers than most pop stars. I mean, you are here and then you're gone. And for all the ones that we remember, there's 10 or 12 who you go, oh, yeah, I remember that song from 1984 or 1992. And there's a reason there's a phrase one-hit wonders, right? Because that's the way pop stardom generally works. When you have someone like this who became famous in the early 1960s and maintained that fame to the degree that we're here talking about it, and that she was a woman and an African-American woman, you can count on one hand the amount of people we'd be talking about right now from that era who were still here and who were so meaningful and relevant for so many decades.
And here's just a little bit of those decades that you're talking about. 12 Grammys, 3 Grammy Hall of Fame awards, Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, the first black artist and the first female to be on the cover of Rolling Stone, in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice, and had her biggest hit when she was in her 40s. It's remarkable. And seeing now an interview here from The Guardian, this was in 2023, it looks like, that she was quoted in The Guardian. She was asked, how would you like to be remembered? She says, as the queen of rock and roll, as a woman who showed other women that it is okay to strive for success on their own terms. There you go. On their own terms. Let's talk about that, Larry.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, and she defined those terms, right? She was defined earlier on as being basically a piece of property in the Ike and Tina Turner review, right? And he put her out front and she did her thing, which was very, like I said, highly sexualized, highly provocative, highly effective. And that's why she was on tour with the Rolling Stones. I mean, Mick Jagger and Keith Richards both thought she was the best thing since, sliced bread. And she was. She steals the movie. Quite frankly, I mean, she's just absolutely electrifying. But then again, she went through all of these different phases and all these trials, which would have defeated other individuals and have defeated other individuals, right, who didn't come back from that. But she was someone who was not going to be defeated. And you have to imagine, as we said earlier on, that she lived the songs that she sang. That's why they were so powerful. This wasn't someone singing them from some kind of remove. These were words that meant something to her, and they meant something to the audience. And you cannot fake that. There are people who are technically skilled as singers who can maybe do a certain kind of performance. But when you see someone of another level take the same words and give them a meaning that you didn't even know they had, the kind of thing that sends chills up your spine, that comes from a lived experience that you cannot fake. And that's why we revisit these songs over and over and over again. That's why you're going to hear this song 50 times in the next 24 hours, because it's a great song. And because when she sang it, she meant it, and you knew it, right? That's what music can communicate, right? A whole other level beyond just the words and the notes, right? There's an alchemy that goes on with those things, with those individuals, that is something that like all great art, all of us can try it and think we can do it and can kind of do the kind of paint by numbers. But when you see it elevated to a realm that you almost can't comprehend, and that many artists themselves say they can't comprehend, right? They'll say that they perform something and it's not even a power within them. There's something else has imbued them. And that's the kind of thing that you saw, evident in Tina Turner.
Larry, Mike, stay with me. Let's take a deep breath, sit back for a minute, remember Tina Turner, and just take a look back at her life and her legacy and just everything that she leaves behind. Our Morgan Norwood had a chance to put this together.
For her millions of fans, love had everything to do with it. And there was so much to love. They loved the trademark mane of hair, they loved the strut, and most of all, they loved the voice that rocked the rafters. Tina Turner was born Anna Mae Bullock in rural Nutbush, Tennessee. In 1960, she went to work for a band leader named Ike Turner. He gave her a new name for the new job. A stormy marriage followed, during which Tina accused Ike of frequent physical abuse. They broke up after 16 years, and she was off on a roller coaster solo career. She knew those peaks and valleys well, the dry spells and the comebacks.
I'm your private dancer, a dancer for money. Do what you want me to do.
Turner converted to Buddhism and credited her new religion with helping her through the rough patches. She took on celebrated film roles as the Acid Queen in Tommy and the apocalyptic Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
You think I don't know the law?
A Kennedy Honors recipient and a 12-time Grammy Award winner who was also inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, once with Ike, and then 30 years later in 2021 as a solo artist.
I'm very happy to have achieved this Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Tina Turner's gritty roots were never far off in that raspy, sultry, I've seen it all and I take back nothing voice.
You're simply the best. Better than all the rest.
That she was.
Better than anyone.
I'm told you're singing along, Mike Muse. Is that correct? I guess it's kind of hard not to.
Yeah, there's something about Simply the Best that just resonates. I thought Morgan did a fantastic job with that package, and to really end it with Simply the Best, that is a perfect song to end to really talk about this life. That was simply the best. And you think about how hard she had to work to get her life to be that place where she can say, I am simply the best, and then to encourage others that you are simply the best. I just want to just double down on being the best. I want to underscore the importance of her being on the cover of Rolling Stones. Rolling Stones at that time when she made the cover was the Bible of music. That is your way of saying, I have arrived, I am here. And to be a female rock and roll artist, to be the first on Rolling Stones, really shows the impact that she had on music and the impact that she had on pop culture, to which she still has. And then to be the first black female to be on Rolling Stones too as well, she's broken barriers, just as Morgan talked about in her piece, being inducted twice, once with an act with Ike and then as a solo artist too. Thinking about Nutbush, Tennessee. I think about that song that Tina used to sing, Nutbush. I would sing it, but I don't have the chops like she had. Here, it's making me think about the origins of music. Rock and roll, when you really peel this back, rock and roll really comes birthed out of the Delta, Mississippi. Rock and roll was really birthed out of the black community. And it really was from like that great northern migration that came from the South and the Delta of Mississippi. And you saw as the northern migration went, you saw the influences that got up to Chicago with jazz and blues and that went up north. But with that, you saw different derivatives of blues, you saw gospel music, all those was rooted coming from that area that she's from of Nutbush, Tennessee. Tina Turner grew up going to juke joints, right? And those halls where you will see really great blues and performance of rock. So that is all influencing who she is, how she is, and really what rock and roll is. So when you think about the origins of rock and roll and how rock and roll comes out of the black community, you can see how she is the essence of rock and roll because she brings all those different origin stories onto the mic and onto the stage when she performs it, because it is who she is innately. It was in her DNA, and that's what allows her to get all those accolades that we're talking about right now, which is why she was simply the best, Kira, just by being herself.
Mike, stay with me. We've got Kelly Carter with us now, ABC News contributor, also senior entertainment reporter at ESPN's Enscape. Yes, you know each other very well. So, Kelly, Mike and I were talking about before Beyonce, before Taylor Swift, before Rihanna, before Madonna, before Gaga. I was taking notes here, right? Before Miley Cyrus, Britney, Pink, Janet, Adele, Alicia, Alanis, there was Tina.
There was Tina Turner, the Queen. If you guys remember, let's go back several years when Beyonce was literally paying homage to Tina Turner and introduced her as the Queen. And it was completely undisputed as it should have been. You know, like Tina Turner really kind of paved the way for the showmanship and the presentation that she did on stage. You know, it's hard to talk about Tina Turner and not talk about the legacy of Ike Turner. So let's talk about that, because Ike Turner truly is the king and the inventor of rock and roll. Like he absolutely created what is thought of as the first classic rock and roll song, and Tina Turner was his protege, and he molded her to become this rock goddess that she ultimately became. And you look at what he did with her on stage with the Ikettes, with the dress, with the dance, with the very aggressive tone that we had never seen from a female performer before Tina Turner. And that really is such a strong part of her legacy. And then let's talk about the world of her outside of Ike Turner, because then she left Ike Turner. We all know that story very well. Angela Bassett did a beautiful job bringing that story to life with all of its nuances. But then she went on to become this incredible, incredible solo performer that continued to blaze pathways in her 40s, knocking down doors and paving the way that she is not just a soul music artist, because that's where kind of the racism of the music industry comes into play, is that a Black woman couldn't just be a standalone rock goddess. And she said, no. I'm not going to sing the blues. I'm not going to sing the music that you think that I should only be able to do because I am a Black woman at a certain age. I want to do rock and roll in its current iteration. And that's exactly what she did. And she did it for so long. One of the most high energy performances anyone has ever seen hit the stage. And she paved the way for all of those young ladies who are doing it in stadiums right now.
So let me ask you, Kelly, when she did do that, right, in a time where, you know, rock and roll, it was a men's club. And like you said, she said, not anymore. They really, well, I don't know. Let me ask you, were there times where the men said, no way? Because if you look back at some of the greatest, you know, rock and roll icons that were men, they loved her, were blown away by her, and shared the stage with her.
I mean, quite frankly, we still haven't heard another female voice sound like Tina Turner. We just haven't, you know, like it was very, very unique and just very beautiful and very rich in tone and texture. And she did a lot for what came behind her. You know, you think about some of the leading female voices, particularly in rock music. I don't know if we would have heard a woman on those tracks. I don't know if we would have heard like a Debbie Harry or someone like that on those tracks if it weren't for a Tina Turner to come first, you know. And I think that, you know, we will probably be talking about her legacy and the things that she did for music, for women and for Black women, for Black people, and for the music industry, regardless of race, for a very long time, because there is, quite frankly, a lot to talk about, you know, when you look at the impact of what she was able to do and what she is still able to do because of the music. The music is what's going to live on for a really, really long time, as it should.
Rock and roll's original warrior queen, Tina Turner, passing away today, sadly, but we continue to lift her up and her life and everything she did for all of us. And we'll continue the conversation with Mike Muse and Kelly Carter. Thank you so much. Stay with us. We are going to take a quick break. Much more straight ahead.
You must understand, the touch of your hand makes my pulse react. That it's only the thrill of boy meeting girl